Hi, good morning. Welcome to our BSc Honours Accounting and Finance web chat. My name is Nikki and I work in CAS Undergraduate Admissions. I'm joined this morning by Dr. Danielle Lissimahu, who is going to be giving you an interactive presentation. The idea is that you will be able to listen to us speaking, and if you have any questions at any time, you'll be able to type those questions, and then either Danielle or myself will answer those for you. It's great that you're here, and we're very happy to be answering any questions and to let you know all about the Accounting and Finance degree and the admissions process. So I'm going to hand you over now to Danielle, who will talk you through some of the Accounting and Finance content. Good morning, Danielle.
Good morning. It's great to see 15 participants. May I ask, first of all, where you're from? Can you type, please, the countries from which you're listening in at the moment? I can guess based on the names that some of you are given, but it would be great to know. I can see Malaysia, Lithuania, London, UK, Seychelles, Philippines, France, Pakistan. So that's great. So thank you very, very much for joining. So my name is Dr. Danielle Lissimahu, and I'm the course director of the BSc Accounting and Finance degree. It's quite exciting to get this opportunity today to talk to you a little bit about the degree and be able to answer your questions. So to start with, I'd like us to ponder a little bit about making the choice of a university degree. So I know that all of you at this point are deciding you've already chosen to go to university. So I'm highlighting this as a choice. So it's not an obligation, you don't have to do it, but it's actually a choice, and I would say it's an investment. So if I had you now in front of me and I were asking you, if we were in a room and having this discussion, I would ask you, actually, what costs are you incurring by making this choice? So you might answer that the obvious costs are the fees that you're paying, it's perhaps the living costs that you will incur, but I would argue actually that you have many more costs than those. You actually are incurring an opportunity cost because you could have decided, instead of going to university, to actually decide to work and get some work experience. So by deciding to spend 3 years in university, you're missing out on that work experience. So actually, there are a lot of costs involved. So I would think that each one of you should take this quite seriously and consider it as an investment. I'm sure you've thought that, okay, I'm incurring these costs now, because obviously if I go to university, I'm going to be able to grow a lot personally and professionally, and then be able to get a much better job and have a more prosperous career. And that's the reason. So I want you to keep that in mind, because from the moment you come to CAS Business School, if you decide to come to us, you will be treated as professionals, as future professionals. So you're no longer students, and you're consciously making this choice to study accounting and finance to become experts in this area. So that brings me into my second kind of question. What do you want to gain from your university experience? So I'd argue that it's not just the academic knowledge. There's so much more that you're going to gain through these 3 years. You're going to gain a lot of transferable skills. You're going to become more confident. You're going to learn how to network, how to present better, work in groups, how to deal with conflict, how to negotiate. And you're going to see, I know from experience with my students, there's a great change that I see from year 1 to year 3. So they grow enormously, both professionally and personally. So that leads me now into a more specific question: why accounting and finance? So I would be asking you, if we were sitting in a room and having this discussion, I would just ask you, why do you want to study accounting and finance? So could you please type in perhaps a few ideas that you might have? Why this? Why not, I don't know, engineering, medicine, business in general? Why in particular accounting and finance? So quite a few of you are typing in at the moment, so very interested to see some of your answers. Okay, chartered accountant, yes, I suppose that's a very, very popular reason. We'll discuss about this actually now during this talk and what that involves, that process. And actually becoming a chartered accountant is a very, very prestigious, it's a prestigious profession in the Anglo-Saxon world. They suit my skills. So I suppose that some of you might have studied, I don't know, economics, business, or accounting in the past, and you liked it. And the advantage in terms of working in the finance field. So exactly, some of you, I don't know if you want to disclose it obviously or not, but it's quite a lucrative profession. And a lot of people are hoping that, you know, they'll be able to earn very, very good salaries through that. I don't know. I understand numbers and want to become a professional accountant. Okay, so exactly these are the type of answers I think that would lead you to want to study accounting and finance. So I'd like to move on a little bit to talk about Cass Business School and why accounting and finance in Cass is special, okay, in my opinion. So if I were to just start, just before I move on, I see a very, very interesting point. My parents work in the finance world, and that is another very common reason. I have a lot of my students, my current students, and I asked them, so why did you choose accounting and finance? And they said, oh, my father's an accountant, or so sometimes there's a family background. But I want you to be kind of aware that it is your choice, and you need to be conscious about that, you know, it is your choice to study this. You shouldn't necessarily be 100% influenced by family background. If you enjoy it yourself, you should go for it. So coming a little bit now into why to choose to study accounting and finance at Cass. So I don't know how well aware you are of Cass's reputation, but in accounting and finance, it is really one of the top schools in terms of, first of all, in terms of research. We have academics with PhDs from the United States. In the third year currently, we have a professor who's teaching corporate strategy, who actually has a PhD in economics from Harvard Business School. So it's very, very top class academics that Cass has hired, especially in the last 5 years, that are part of the degree. So that's a great thing to have professors that are both excellent and have extremely high credentials and are world-class researchers. At the same time, though, what makes, I think, Cass a bit different to other business schools, especially in London, is that interaction with the City of London. So we're very, very good in terms of the connections we have with the various accounting and finance firms in the city, and that will give you that edge. You'll see there's plenty of events that actually run at Cass on a weekly basis. Just to give you an example, this week we have the Governor of the Bank of England giving a lecture, an evening lecture at Cass. Okay, so that's a very, very high profile gentleman who's coming, Mr. Kearney, who's coming actually to make this talk. We also had, yesterday I attended a talk by the head of Lex of the Financial Times, who was giving a guest lecture to some of our students as well. So you see, that interaction is really, really important, I feel. That leads me into my second point. I know you're chatting, but we might want to restrain a little bit that, and there will be plenty of opportunities to interact, because actually I'm going to be asking you plenty of questions. So the fact that Cass is in London, you might think, okay, London, yes, there's other UK cities, but London is really, really special. You see that an integrated part of our degree is the opportunity to take a placement, a 12-month placement, which I will talk about in depth in a while, or to do an internship with a company. And you'll see that in London, there's so many opportunities to do that. There's going to be a lot of interaction with accounting firms, firms in the financial sector, investment banks, retail banks, and there's going to be so many opportunities to actually do a placement or an internship if you wish so. I feel it's a very, very good opportunity, and I would encourage you to actually do one of those, but I'll explain what it is in a while. In terms of the actual accounting and finance degree, it's professionally accredited, so you will be able to gain a very large number of exemptions towards the professional accounting qualification that is tied with the ICAEW. I will explain what that body is. I have it on the next slide. And importantly, there's a very, very applied focus. So that applied focus ties in very, very well with CAS's DNA. So CAS's DNA is all about, yes, there's academic rigor, at the same time there's an applied focus. I'll illustrate this when we come to talk about the degree structure. So I have some slides coming up in a while that describe how year 1, year 2, and year 3 will look like. And I'll explain, I'll actually mention there are a few modules, a few courses in there that have a very, very applied focus and that you don't usually find in other universities. Now, just to let you know a little bit about the student population on the degree, there's usually over 800 applications for the BSc in Accounting and Finance, over 800 applications, and we take around 80 to 90 students. So there's 1 in 10 chance in terms of the students that apply who is actually selected. So it's a very, very competitive degree because we want to get the best possible students, because I feel being in a class with extremely good classmates, or colleagues as I would call them, it's extremely advantageous. You might feel a bit insecure in the beginning because you'll realize that you're not the only kind of really good student in the class. But if I were you, I would want to be in that type of class because I would want to be stretched a little bit. I would want to be around very smart people in order to improve myself as well. So I see that actually as an advantage, and I would want to be among the best and be among very, very smart classmates. And the last thing is that based on the rankings, CAS is ranked first in London for undergraduate business and management degrees. So this is a kind of more general point, but it ties in very well. And the BSc Accounting and Finance degree in itself is quite exceptional among the undergraduate degrees. Now, let me move on a little bit to talk about the key features of the degree. So I don't know if you've seen this kind of symbol before. Perhaps those of you who are from the UK or from a country that is influenced by the UK might have seen this symbol before. This is the ICAEW. So it stands for the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. And this is the most prestigious, arguably the most prestigious professional accounting body in the world, or at least one of them. Okay, arguably it's the most, but I don't want to be quoted on that. Now, what is that body and how does that fit in with your degree? So essentially we're running this program in partnership with the ICAEW, and by completing our degree, if you pass certain modules with 50% or more, if your grade is 50% or higher, you will actually gain exemptions towards the professional qualification that the ICAEW gives you. So just to explain what this is, if you want to work as an accountant, at least in the Anglo-Saxon world and in most countries nowadays, you need to have what we call, in many cases, a university degree, but at the same time, you need to be professionally qualified. That means that you need to pass a number of examinations that this body or other similar bodies administer and have a certain number of years of work experience in order to become professionally qualified. And once you become professionally qualified, you're called a chartered accountant. So if you get the ICAEW professional qualification, you would become an ACA qualified accountant, chartered accountant. Now, once that happens, suddenly your salary is going to increase by a lot, and the prospects are going to become many, many more. So it's quite an exciting thing to do, and it's a very, very prestigious thing to have. Actually, chartered accountants in the UK are considered, as a profession, it's considered quite similar to doctors or to lawyers, so it's a very, very prestigious profession. Now, with the ICAEW, in order to become a chartered accountant, you would need to pass 15 examinations and have 3 years of work experience. Okay, 15 examinations, 3 years of work experience. Now, if you complete the degree, the BSc Accounting and Finance degree at CAS, and you get 50% or more on some of the courses that are on the degree, you can gain up to 8 exemptions from those 15 exams. So essentially, you will have essentially been exempted from 8 exams out of 15. So that gives you an edge, because then afterwards you only need to pass 7 exams and do the work experience. In addition to that, there is the opportunity, the degree, you can either take it as a 3-year degree, or you can decide to take it as a 4-year degree. Okay, you don't have to make this choice actually when you enter or when you decide to start. You can make that decision later on. In the second year of your degree, the end of the second year of your degree, you can make that decision whether you want to extend it to a 4-year degree or keep it as a 3-year degree. Now, why am I talking about extending it to a 4-year degree? Because you have this opportunity. You do year 1 with us at CAS, you do year 2 with us, and then in your 3rd year, you can decide to take a year out to do a 12-month paid placement. Okay, now that is actually work experience. So you can actually go and work for one of the big 4 accounting firms. Can I just ask, just to see if you're with me or you left? Can you give me the names of the big 4 accounting firms? Can you just type one name so I can see if... Yeah, I saw PwC, so PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, EY, which is Ernst & Young, EY, and KPMG. Excellent. Okay, so we have, these are the big 4 accounting firms. While I'm talking about this, so you can do a 12-month placement either with a big 4 accounting firm or accounting firms that are at the lower tier. It doesn't have to be big 4. Okay? You could also do a placement with an investment bank. Could you give me a few names of investment banks, perhaps? Yeah, JP Morgan, Barclays Capital. Yeah, we have Barclays, quite a few on Barclays, so you seem quite keen. Yeah, HSBC, retail bank, it has some investment banking arm as well. ML, I'm not sure what that, kind of RBS, yes. ML, Morgan Stanley perhaps, or so no, it's not Morgan Stanley if it's ML, Merrill Lynch, yes. Now it belongs to Bank of America. Lloyd's as well. So you see, there are banks that have retail arms. Some of them have investment banking arms that are larger. Okay, it's Chase from JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs as well, a very, very well-known US investment bank. There's a French one as well, Société Générale. Okay, BNP Paribas. So they're all in London actually, and they're in the city, so they're very, very close to where we're located, and it's a very nice thing to actually be able to be in the center of things. So this, if you do this 12-month placement, A, it's going to be paid, so the company's going to pay you. B, it's fantastic to have this work experience on your CV. And C, it is very likely that if you do well during this 12-month placement, that you're actually going to be given, you're going to be made a graduate offer by the company. So you're going to be offered a permanent job afterwards. That's a great thing to have, to be able to say that I take out this 3rd year, I go and do my work placement, and then I know that from Deutsche Bank or from Goldman Sachs, or from KPMG, I have a graduate offer afterwards. So I come back to university to do my final year knowing that there is a job waiting out there for me at the end. Okay, that relieves you from that stress. So, and additionally, that 12-month placement that you will complete will also give you 1 out of the 3 years of work experience that you need towards your ACA qualification, okay, with the ICAW. So think about it. After you finish the degree, you'll be able to have hopefully up to 8 exemptions, so 8 exams that you don't need to take, so you only have 7 exams to take, and if you've done the placement, you will only need to complete 2 more years of work experience in order to become chartered accountants, okay, if you want to pursue the chartered accountancy qualification. Now, I need to highlight something, that this degree is accounting and finance, okay? And I think that makes it very, very different to degrees that are purely BSc accounting degrees. I'll tell you why from my experience. There are people, if out in the business world, there are people who are chartered accountants or who are just accountants who are very, very fluent in the language of accounting. They can do balance sheets, income statements, cash flow statements. They speak the language of accounting, but they don't understand how financial markets operate. So they have difficulties understanding, you know, what moves shares, the different classes of shares or different securities. You have bonds, equities. So they don't speak that language. And then you have, on the other hand, other people who work in the financial industry and speak the language of finance, but they don't understand balance sheets, income statements, cash flow statements. They say, bring the accountant for that. We don't understand these things. So how great is it to bring actually the two together and have both of them? Because these two languages interact. And if you're able to be fluent both in accounting and finance, that actually gives you an edge towards, compared to people who are just purely accountants or are doing purely a BSc in finance. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to talk a little bit more now about the placement opportunities, but so I would encourage, if I could see each one of you and we could have a one-to-one chat, I would just say, going for the 4-year degree, from a kind of professional and personal growth perspective, I think you will benefit more than going for the 3-year degree. But it's up to you. There are students, some students just want to go through the 3 years, want to do perhaps, instead of doing a 12-month placement, they might decide to do a summer internship, which is a 2-month internship after they finish their 2nd year and before they start the 3rd. That's completely fine as well. Some students do that and get a graduate offer by doing a summer internship. Okay. Just also to highlight that in these 12 months you can do a placement, or you can decide also to study abroad at another university. You might say, I'm already from abroad, I'm already coming to the UK, I'm already studying abroad. Why would I want to study even to go to a 3rd country to study abroad? I'd say it looks great on your CV if you could have 2 universities. You know, when I was an undergraduate student, I decided to take a year and study abroad, and I can tell you that that simply changed my life. It gave me so many more opportunities. I met people that I would have never met otherwise, and it changed the direction of my life. Okay, so it is as well something interesting to consider. Now, is it hard to get a placement in the 3rd year? With a placement, I just want to, because I'm seeing this question, I find it quite interesting. I know Nikki is typing, but perhaps I can address it. I can address it verbally. There is a dedicated placement office that it belongs to CAS within the universities. So as CAS students, you will have access to that placement office, and there's plenty of companies actually that contact this placement office to advertise opportunities to CAS students. And if you log on, if you get access to that mailing list, you're going to be having these opportunities coming into your inbox. We have an excellent career service that will help you with CV checks, mock interviews. You can take mock assessment centers. You can take mock assessment tests, psychometric tests. So we'll do our best to prepare you. For example, in February, I ran an event where I brought in HR people, human resource people from EY to give a talk about how to excel in strength-based interviewing. Okay, because EY has this its own way of doing interviews, and they're strength-based. So they came and gave a talk, and then they were very nice because they gave us 12 slots where we could have our students do mock interviews with EY people. So that's an excellent opportunity to practice. Okay, so we cannot guarantee that all of you will get it. You'll have to obviously put effort into it and prepare a good CV and go out and chase them. But we'll prepare you as best as possible. Okay, what countries do you have links with? You can do a placement either in the UK if you want, in London. I mean, it's very, very convenient if you are in London studying, but actually you can do a placement anywhere you want. So we have students doing placements in Malaysia, we have students in Singapore. Actually, I have now a 4th year student it's very interesting, her profile. She's from Singapore, and she did 6 months with BDO, which is an accounting firm in Singapore, and 6 months with PwC in London. 2 completely different placements, and together it was a 12 months, and she got exposure both to assurance and to tax. So there were 2 different placements, so that was an excellent thing to do. And she got a graduate offer from PwC in London, and she will join them soon now after she graduates. Okay, So just to show you what type of areas actually, by doing a placement, I just want to show you that it doesn't have to be purely accounting or purely finance. Okay, we have students at the moment, we've had for the last 2 years, doing a placement with UNICEF in London, okay, not-for-profit sector. We've had students in the past doing a placement with the Bank of England, with some asset management firms. So it doesn't have to be just simply accounting or a bank. Okay? There's many roles within accounting and finance that you could have in different types of companies and industries. Now, because I love also the study abroad thing, because I've experienced it myself and I've gained enormously, I just want to highlight that if you decide, instead of doing a placement during your 3rd year, to study abroad, we have links with over 25 partner universities across the world. So you see plenty of countries here. You see the United States, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, South America, you see European countries. And it's very prestigious schools as well. Okay, so we have the University of Michigan that we're starting a partnership with now. We have the University of Illinois. We have top universities in Australia and Canada, McGill, and a number of other ones. And so what you could do is complete 2 years with us, then take 12 months out to go and study for an additional year in one of those partner universities, and then come back in your 4th year. Okay? And in my mind, if I'm an employer and I'm looking at the CV, the standard CV just has, let's say you're an excellent student, right? And you get above 70%, which is perceived as, you know, getting a first, it's a distinction. So your CV is great. It shows to me that you're great academically, but there's not much else on the CV. Okay, now compare that with somebody who has perhaps an internship with a prestigious firm, has some volunteering experience, and has been, you know, on a year abroad. Now that CV looks much more impressive. Okay, and it shows that the person is proactive and they're taking advantage of all the opportunities that exist. Now, I don't know if before we, so the next 3 slides actually will take us now through the actually degree structure and the various modules or courses that you will have within the degree. I don't know if there's any questions before I move into that section. If there's questions about admissions though, I'd ask you please to wait a little bit towards the end to ask those. If there's questions about what we've been discussing about, I'd be happy to answer them. So I see that Maxime is typing in. I don't want to stress you. Yes, so when you study 1 year abroad, you get the double diploma. So what happens is you get the CAS, obviously, degree, and you get a recognition, so you get a certification from CAS that you've studied a year abroad. You will get a transcript of records from that university abroad, certifying that you have taken, let's say, 10 courses during that year, 5 in term 1, 5 in term 2, and you'll have grades for those. So on your CV, I would say, you know, BSc Accounting and Finance degree, CAS Business School, graduated with a first, okay, a first, which is excellent. And then I would say a 1 year exchange with McGill in Canada, completed 5 subject areas, and you can put some of them average grade, I don't know, 80%. So that's how I would present it. Okay, so now we can move on to, I know I'm taking a bit longer perhaps than I had originally budgeted for, but I'm enjoying it. I don't know if you're enjoying it. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the course structure. Now, how many of you, I suppose quite a few of you probably, sorry, there's a question, what looks better in terms of obtaining a job? Now, any of these two that you say studying abroad or doing an internship is much better than having none of those, right? So either studying abroad or doing an internship, they both look great. If you have an internship, the chances are, if you do very well during that you will also get a graduate offer from the company with which you interned during the summer. So just to explain, I'm a student now, I'm actually finishing my second year, and I'm going to be doing an internship with, I don't know, PricewaterhouseCoopers for 2 months, July and August this summer. If I do very well during these 2 months, it's very, very likely that PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, will offer me a graduate job in audit, tax, or corporate finance after I finish. Can you do an internship abroad? Absolutely. Okay? And actually, there's the option to, if you want to do half a year of half a year placement and half a year study abroad as well, if you want to. Okay, so you can have the best of both worlds. So what I showed you before in the slide before, so if I am to go just back, you can do half a year that and half a year that. Well, it's quite hard to, you know, it's not easy to perhaps arrange it logistically, especially if it's in different countries, but there is that option, and some people have done it. Okay. How competitive? Well, it is quite competitive, but that's the thing, because exactly you're in London and you have this opportunity to have all these companies coming into CAS and giving these talks, and we have various kind of workshops preparing you for those. I think we have a very, very good chance. I can tell you that last year, for example, there were 12 students that went on placement, a year-long placement, and over half the class had managed to do an internship. So that's a very, very good in terms of statistics. Some people simply don't want to do either, so they never apply for these. But the people who want to do them, there's a very, very high chance of getting them. Okay, but of course you have to put the effort into that, but we'll prepare you. Do we have to pay tuition fees during the internship year, the placement year? There's a small fee. There's not the normal tuition fee. So if I remember correctly, because I attended a talk by the placements office that describes these things, at the moment for the current students, I think that UK and EU students have to pay £1,000 during that 1 year that they're doing the placement at. But remember, you're also going to be getting paid by the company. International students, I think the fee is something like $2,000. Okay, so it's not like the standard tuition fees that you would have. Okay, so I'm dying now to move on to this the course structure. I actually, I see this degree a little bit as my baby. In a sense, you might be laughing a little bit now. But so I want to explain to you what all these modules, I call them modules, are about. So, and explain what we'll be doing in these 3 years. Each academic year contains 10 modules. Okay, 10 modules or 10 courses. There's quite a few core modules, meaning that you have to take, and then there's some electives that you can choose. So year 1 sets the foundations. Okay, so in year 1 we get people with different backgrounds. Some of you might have studied accounting before, or some of you might have studied finance, economics. Some of you might have not studied it at all. So you see that a lot of the courses that we have, the modules, are called introduction to. Okay, introduction to or foundations. So that means that we're introducing the subject areas. So I'm actually very passionate about this second module, Introduction to Financial Accounting, because I teach this. So I teach in the first year of the degree and in the second year. And I tell my students that actually accounting is the love of my life. They laugh quite a bit with that. So you're going to get exposure to finance, financial accounting, economics, business law, and interestingly, a module called professional skills in the autumn term. Now this module is very, very different to modules that you would experience in other universities, because this is what we're talking about when we say applied, that the degree is applied. You're going to be in small groups, up to 20, and you're going to have to do various tasks. Present, see how you manage conflict, have situations where you'll have to negotiate, have situations where you have to build something together, actually build it. So you're going to be given straws and you have to build it to see whether you can work as a team well, and you can do tasks quite fast. So this professional skills module, we have it purposefully in year 1 in the autumn term to actually give you those skills, prepare you for the professional world. You're going to learn how to write business reports, how to act in a professional manner, and we want that because exactly as we said, it's a very professionally oriented degree. Now, in the spring term, you see we're working with management accounting, financial accounting in the autumn, management accounting in the spring. We have another finance module, financial institutions. The economics module is continuing, and we also have statistics. So if you notice, if you look at the various modules that we have here, we're giving you a very good grounding in the area of finance, in the area of accounting, in economics, in law, statistics, and also that more applied module, professional skills. How many exams? Well, each module has coursework and has an exam. So I'm going to describe that after I finish the course structure, how your life will look like and how each week will look like during term time. Okay. And in addition to the degree, we have the opportunity to study a language. Yes, what you will see is that there's going to be also extracurricular activities that are free. Okay, so that's a great thing that they're free. Every Monday, there's 2 hours dedicated to studying a foreign language. Okay? Do we have exams on electives? Absolutely. I would want it no other way because, you know, obviously you need to be motivated and to be working towards the learning, and there's no better thing to motivate you than having an exam coming up. Okay? So there's one elective that you can choose. So there's 3 options, and you can choose one elective out of those 3. Notice now this, you have 2 things that might sound familiar to you, like Introduction to Management, International Business Environment. These are kind of standard academic subjects, but you also have, very interestingly, Introduction to Visual Basic. Okay, now that's a programming language, and that's a language that helps you automate Excel processes and work much faster in Excel. Now that's an example again of applied, you see. I don't know of any other universities, to be honest, that do have Visual Basic on an undergraduate program. Okay? I encourage my students to take it currently, and a large proportion of the class is taking this module. Because it's not only about the knowledge, it's about the skills that you'll have, and it's great to be able to finish and say, I can also program a bit, I can actually take this spreadsheet full of numbers and very quickly do the analysis, you know, much faster than most of my colleagues who don't know how to Visual Basic works. So that's year 1. It sets the foundations. Okay? Now year 2, it's a big step up. Yeah, I think Visual Basic is key to system accounting, absolutely. So year 2 now is a big step up in terms of the level of difficulty, and you see we have the same subject areas more or less, but now we're going to be looking at them much more in depth. Okay, so it's not the introduction anymore. Now we're going into all the nitty-gritty and in depth into each subject area. Interestingly, notice that there's audit and assurance, and there's tax that comes into your second year. Okay? There's financial econometrics, which is more advanced statistics, which is an excellent skill to have as a professional in accounting and finance. And again, I'm not sure whether, you know, other degrees have this in other universities. And you have a choice now of 2 electives, and you can actually see the various areas. There's plenty of finance modules here, derivatives, portfolio theory, risk analysis and modeling. That's a very applied module, which explains how to use Excel to do advanced modeling. Okay. You have how to value companies, how to analyze them. So there's plenty of choice actually of electives in your second year. You're spoiled for choice in a sense. Now, just to answer a few of the questions that I'm seeing here. Do we have the same number of exams each year? Does it increase or decrease as the year goes on? Because exactly you have 5 modules in term 1 in the autumn term and 5 in the spring, you're going to have approximately 5 exams in each. Okay? Some modules are year-long, so you will have just an exam in the spring. But the ones that are 1 term each, which is, for example, here, these are 1-term modules. Okay? So you'll have an exam for those. Is there any reading that I'm able to obtain for the summer? Yeah, I'd encourage you. I can give you, you know, perhaps at some point we can send you my email address, and if you want to email me, I could definitely offer you some reading. Can we choose more than 2 electives? That's the thing, that if I were you, I'd be interested in more than 2 of these subjects. You could perhaps sit in, if you want to, and audit the subject, but you won't be able to formally take it and take the examination, okay? Because there's 10 modules each year. So now I'm going to move on to the final year. Final year now is where actually we test and we see how well you've done in the previous 2, and it's the point where actually you're applying now your judgment and all the skills you've learned in your first and second year, and you take much more responsibility here because you have a final year project. You see, that's a year-long project that you're the main researcher here. So it's a topic that you're passionate about in accounting and finance, and you'll be working on that with the help of a supervisor. You'll be able to apply your VBA skills, your financial econometric skills, your modeling skills, and it's quite an exciting thing to do. If you've actually done a placement year, a lot of students that have done placement year do a project on that company. Okay, so they're able to have insider access and work with that. You see now that in term 1 of your final year, there's a lot of finance involved. There's also a strategy module that will give you an exemption towards one of the professional exams with the ICAW. In the spring term, there's so much more accounting actually. So there's again tax, audit at a higher level, and there's advanced financial accounting. Notice again that you have 2 electives, again a very large number of areas. There's a new one we're bringing in this year, how not to lie with statistics. So that's an interesting one, because as you know, using statistics, you can probably prove that even elephants can fly. And this is an interesting module because it's case study based, and we're going to be working with cases and seeing actually how statistics can make things that are obvious appear different, and how you can use it either to abuse information or use it to your advantage. So any questions regarding, it says in order to obtain a first, so there is a question about the course structure. In order to obtain a first, how many extra hours of individual study do you think is required? Okay, just let me answer that before we can move on perhaps. This is an interesting point because how does it work? Each year of the 3 years has 150 credits worth of learning. Okay. Now 150 credits, if you divide that by 10 modules that you have approximately each year, that means that each module is a 15 credit module. Now these 15 credits actually mean the following. It means 150 hours of learning. Okay. So if I take, for example, corporate finance here, that's a 15 credit module. That means 150 hours of work. In the classroom, you might get 30 of those hours, and there's 120 hours of independent work that you're expected to put in. You'll be given readings, you'll be given tasks to do, coursework. So I would say that for each one of those modules, you spend 6 to 7 hours a week working on those. So if you have 5 modules, it's like a full-time job, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, maybe a little bit work on the weekend as well. So if you take it as such, remember it's an investment that you're making. There's a lot of costs involved. You're missing out on work experience by being at university. It's great if you treat it as a job. It sounds really intense but fun. Yeah, exactly. You won't want it to be easy, right? Because you're putting a lot of effort into this and you want it to be intense because actually your work life is going to be intense. It's preparing you for that. Do we still have to, there are people who actually have part-time jobs as well. There are people who actually manage to do that. You're going to learn time management skills as well and how to prioritize. So that's part of what I was saying, that personal growth. Okay, so we can actually now talk a little bit about how your life looks. That fits in now with what I wanted to say about how a week of your life will look like at university. Okay. So in terms of your learning, as I said, there are 5 modules per term. Let me just say that there's 2 terms. I already mentioned this autumn and the spring. Each term is 11 weeks. So you will start at the end of September and the autumn term will finish mid-December. Then you have the Christmas break, and then you have 2 weeks of examination from the 14th of January, 15th mid-January till the end of January. Then term 2 starts at the very end of January, just after your first your examinations, and goes on for 11 weeks. Sometime in April it finishes, and then you have 3-4 weeks of study before a 3-week examination period. So you would finish essentially beginning of June, you would finish your academic year. So that gives you that opportunity, that space, that time to be able to do internship work as well in the summer. Now, out of those 5 modules, in terms of how much classroom time you'll have, so I'm just being distracted a little bit by a question. So is this video being recorded? Yes, it is. Okay. So there's 5 modules per term, and for each module you're going to have a 2-hour lecture a week and approximately a 1-hour tutorial per week. Okay, so that's why I'm calculating the 15 hours per week of classroom time. Okay, as each module you have 2 hours of lecture and 1-hour tutorial per week. That gives you the 15 hours that you'll have classroom time. Now, in terms of how we do this kind of the lectures and the tutorials, I don't know if you can guess by the way I'm conducting this. It's a bit sad that I don't have you in front of me, but I love active learning. Okay, and at least in my classes, there's plenty of in-class activities that we do and discussions, and you're going to have the opportunity to present. So it's all about getting you involved. That's the best way to learn, okay, rather than just sitting and listening. There's one thing that we have the opportunity to do, because we're in London, we have the opportunity to bring in a lot of people from the industry. So we brought in the head of audit from the ICAW a few weeks ago to talk to final year students. On the 7th of March, we took our students and we visited. Do we know what this IASB stands for? We visited this place. Okay. If you need to log off for whatever reason, that's fine. The session is being recorded. I was wondering whether anybody knows what the IASB stands for. Okay, maybe not. So it's the International Accounting Standards Board. Okay, so that is the body that produces all the accounting regulations that are followed by over 100 countries in the world. Okay? Now this is an extremely well-known regulator in the UK. So we made a visit to them. We had a visit on the 7th of March, and it was a great experience for the class. They really enjoyed that. Okay, yes, International Accounting Standards Board. So in terms of assessment, because you've been asking about assessment, all our modules have coursework, and that's something that you don't find in all universities, and I think that's something that's actually quite a unique feature and a good feature. You know why? If you just had an end of term exam and no coursework, I would think that I wouldn't be motivated to study consistently during the term, and I would just be cramming 1 week before the exam. Okay, some of you might not, and that's great if you're very disciplined, but some of you might be tempted not to study consistently. But because the whole purpose is not to be passing exams, the whole purpose is not to get grades, the purpose is to learn, yeah? Is to become that professional that you want to become, that expert in accounting and finance. So to help motivate you, there is plenty of coursework. So there's going to be some midterm tests, there's going to be presentations, reports that you have to write, group work. And notice that it's quite different and diverse, because we want to be able to test your different skills. Like, are you good at writing an essay? Can you structure your thoughts properly and outline them properly? With a midterm test, are you good at working under pressure? Are you good at presenting? Okay, if you're not good, of course, this is just all to help you practice, right? So you have to do a little bit of everything to become better, to grow. We're going to teach you how to learn in group, how to work in groups. So plenty of skills that you can actually gain from this type of coursework. I can tell you that in year 1, coursework counts 20% for each module, and the end of term exam counts 80%. So it's obviously the exam has a higher weighting than the coursework. In years 2 and 3, coursework usually counts 30%, your exam counts 70% for each module. Okay. I'm coming towards the end now, so this is something I wanted to mention, that you will have an academic member of staff like myself who will be a personal tutor for you that you will have throughout your studies. So that means that member of staff is responsible for your progress. You're going to have at least a meeting, a once-a-term meeting with your personal tutor to discuss how you're doing, to discuss about placements, about internships, about MSc studies if you're interested. So that academic will act as an advisor for you and will know you personally and will be able also to provide you with a reference at the end of your studies should you require one. Now, just a little bit, I have just 2 more slides, okay, 2-3 more slides, a little bit about the career prospects. We've talked a lot about those. Just to tell you, our current graduates have worked, some of them have gone for chartered accountancy careers, so they become auditors or they work in tax. Some of them work in the public sector or do management consultancy even, okay, and these are some of the firms they work in. Some of them work in the finance industry because exactly, it's accounting and finance. Okay, so they've gone for investment banking, very tough, long hours, it's quite a demanding job. Retail banking, asset management. But what I want to highlight is you can actually do much, much more than just these two. Okay, you can even become an entrepreneur, start your own business, because you're actually going to get these skills that accounting and finance is difficult to get unless you study it. So it's better to study it at university. Management, marketing, you can take a book and read about them. They're easier to grasp. The accounting and finance are quite technical subject areas. So if you have those skills from university, you're better positioned to start your own business. You'll be aware of these things. Regarding admissions, I have a next slide where I'm just highlighting what the admissions criteria are. Now, some of you have a conditional offer. Some of you are waiting yet for a decision. So I'm just going to highlight these. You're probably aware of these. And we have Nikki from admissions who will be able to answer your questions once I conclude, which is very, very soon. Okay. Notice that we're looking for 3 A's, and one of the subjects has to be maths or a science. And this is quite a high demand, and it's quite tough to get 3 A's, but as we said, we want the best possible high caliber students. Okay? And you'll benefit from having great classmates in terms of growth. As I said, regarding admissions criteria, Nikki will be more than happy to answer your questions in just a second. So that was all I had to say basically, and I just wanted to say good luck with whatever you choose. And it's going to be a great 3 to 4 years ahead, very, very intense, but at the same time very fulfilling. So good luck with your choice, and thank you very much. So Nikki now will be happy to take any questions that you might have on admissions. I'm here as well. I'm not going to be logged out completely, so if you have questions for me as well, I'd be happy to answer them.
Hi there, thank you very much, Danielle. Okay, just to answer a little bit for more in detail some of the questions that are coming through. There was an inquiry recently, is this for UK applicants? It's for all applicants and offer holders, so UK, European and overseas applicants. To give a little bit more detail on some of the questions that have been coming in terms of if you're interested in applying for a placement or a study abroad year, one of the main criteria is that you do need to pass all of your first year modules on your first attempt. You will also be competing with other students, so the Placements and Study Abroad Office will do their best to help source you and place you, but there isn't a guarantee that you will necessarily get your either company of choice or your institution of choice. If it's a placement that you're hoping to apply for, there's different ways that companies will try and recruit students. Sometimes they will come on site, and certainly CAS do have recruitment fairs, in which case if you have registered an interest in doing a placement, the company, you will be invited to attend that fair, and that will be organised by the Placements Office. Sometimes companies might just contact the Placements Office and say they have a number of opportunities, and the Placements Office will then email those opportunities out to the registered students, and you would then apply for them. It might be in some instances that you're just competing with other CAS students. In some cases you might be competing with students from across different universities, but I will say that we do have a very good track record of placing students. For study abroad, some of the options in terms of where you can study for accounting and finance students, this includes in Singapore, the Nanyang Technological Institute, in Spain, the Universidad de Barcelona. In Austria, we have the University of Vienna. In Brisbane, Australia, there's QUT, which is Queensland University of Technology. And in France, the ESSEC Business School in Paris. So that's just a few examples to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of the types of universities, and certainly these are all top business schools. If you were, for example, doing a replacement second year, so the modules would be counting towards your final degree classification, you would be studying equivalent modules at these institutions. If you're taking the sandwich year, you get a little bit more flexibility in terms of the subjects that you would be studying, and all of the subjects taught to you would be in English. If you're applying for study abroad, as with placements, you do need to pass all your modules first time round. In terms of applying, again, there are limited places, so you would be competing with other CAS students, and you would need to, in your application form, put down up to 3 choices. Study abroad office will then do their best to place you. At the moment, we're just giving you contact details for the placements office, and we'll do the same both for Danielle for study abroad and for us. Okay, I'm just hearing actually you won't be able to do the replacement second year, so it is just the study abroad option. The reason being for that is to do with the credit exemptions for the ICAEW. So the options for you would be that you would spend 2 years at CAS, then go away for the 3rd year if you wished on a placement. Something that you can't do is 2 years away, so you wouldn't, for example, be able to spend a full 12 months on study abroad followed by 12 months of a placement. Your options there would be, if you wanted to do the year study abroad, you could apply for summer internships. They're typically 9 to 12 weeks. They are incredibly competitive, far more so than the standard 9 to 12 month placement, but they pay really well. So you can sometimes find that in a 9-week placement, you're actually earning the same amount as someone on a full year's placement. The other opportunity that Danielle touched on, in which someone asked us, can you get placements abroad? That is one option. So, for example, you could do 1 semester studying abroad, followed by a placement abroad. If you're doing that, the placements office won't actually be able to source companies for you, but what they can do is they can help support you in your application to those institutions, sorry, to those companies. If you are sourcing your own placement, what you need to do is just let the placements office know a little bit about the position that you're applying for, because you need to make sure that it is relevant to the accounting and finance degree, so that you can justify why it is that you're taking that placement and how that will then benefit you. Both placement and study abroad students have on average a higher proportion of those students go on to get first and 2-1s, so it's definitely beneficial in terms of your studies, and by getting those higher degree classifications, again, it makes you far more employable afterwards. We had a question regarding pre-course reading. I know that Danielle is happy for you to contact her, and she will provide some books. What we also do, in late August, the admissions office will send you information regarding your induction week. Induction week will start on the 22nd of September. So in late August, we will send you your induction week email, and as part of that, we do send you a kind of pre-course reading, normally 1 to 3 books, which the course director has provided, and which is just, you know, it's not essential that you read them, but it's really good just in terms of getting you excited about your university course, and just kind of gives you a little bit of preparation beforehand. Any other questions that have come in? There are lots of sports, Maxime. Yep, the university has Students' Union, lots of different sports clubs, for example, football, hockey, basketball, all the types of traditional sports. There is a cheerleading club. There's also a sports centre which has been closed for the last couple of years whilst they've been redeveloping it to make it state-of-the-art. We've seen pictures, it looks fantastic, and that's due to open in September. So what we can do afterwards is, when we send you the link round, we'll send everyone a list of the Students' Union, the current societies. There are a lot of them. Typically, if there's a society, be it sports or another type of thing, which isn't represented, if you can get a few people together to justify why you would like that, the Students' Union typically will fund a society. And also, being in London, I'm not sure if there's archery or fencing, but certainly there is. Hey, there is fencing for my colleague, but certainly again, we are in London, so there's a huge number of facilities and things literally on our doorstep. Do we have any other questions coming through? Okay, if you've not yet had a decision from us, anyone that has applied by the 15th of January deadline, you will get a decision from CAS by the 31st of March. If you applied after 15th of January, then you will get a decision by the 30th of June at the latest. So for anyone that is waiting for a decision, I know it's a little bit of an anxious time, and we do get a huge number of applications, and the team are currently working through to kind of process them as quickly but as consistently and fairly as we can. There's a question as to whether applicants need to take IELTS. The answer to that would be that everybody joining CAS must meet our minimum English requirement. So for some people that will be, you may already have GCSE English language, you may have O-level English language or IGCSE. In some qualifications, for example, we accept IB standard level English. So if you have IB standard level English, you will not need IELTS. If you are required to take IELTS, then that will be specified clearly in any offer conditions. So if you're not quite sure, I would say check your offer condition if you have been made an offer and just see what it says in relation to any English requirement. There's a question with regards to the foundation years. At the moment, for the current intake, there isn't a foundation linked directly to the accounting and finance degree. There are lots of foundation colleges that we do accept for entry onto accounting and finance. The entry criteria for those does vary from college to college due to the different types of programs that they offer. I would say if there's a particular inquiry that a particular college that you're interested in checking the criteria for, my advice would be that when we give you our contact details, and I believe you can see there the undergraduate admissions email, cassug@city.ac.uk, send us an email and we'll be able to reply to that to give you the exact criteria for a foundation college. In terms of when you would apply for either a study abroad or a placement opportunity, that's something that you would do during your first year. So during the admission cycle, you're just applying for the standard 3-year programme. Then, for anyone interested in study abroad, the Student Exchange Office will contact you during the autumn term, and the placements office will contact you during the spring term. That's typically how it's done. They tend to email students, and they also tend to put posters up around the course office just to kind of advertise what's happening there. And then you would apply for that during the second year. Okay, someone's asking about timetables. You will get your initial timetable during induction week. So, well, actually, you'll get your induction timetable first. So the very first thing you'll get will be in mid to late August. We will email you with your induction timetable, which will be the 5 days from the 22nd of September. You will be expected to be on campus every day that week. On the first day, one of the things that you will do, it's likely that you will meet with Danielle and get an accounting and finance induction. At that stage, you'll also get to meet Rui, who is your course officer, and Rui will give you a couple of touch points during that week in terms of how to read your timetable. So at that stage, you'll get an initial timetable for your compulsory modules, and they would start teaching on the 29th of September. Rui will also then run through things like your electives, and you would then have that induction week chance to register for electives. So once you've registered for those, you'll then get slotted into different tutorial groups and get provided with a full timetable. In terms of lectures and tutorials, I think Danielle's touched on it already, but you typically have around 18 to 22 hours of taught contact each week. Typically, the earliest lecture would start at 9 a.m. You would expect the latest ones would finish at 6 p.m. If you're hoping to do one of the language electives which we mentioned, they would take place between 6 and 8 one evening per week. So that's an optional elective. It doesn't count towards your degree classification, but like the year studying abroad, you do get the opportunity to have it written on your transcript, and that's again a great opportunity. Okay, I understand there's also a language elective which is held between 2 and 4 on Mondays. Just also with timetables, I would say expect that you would be in every day. It's not often that you would get much on a Wednesday afternoon, because that tends to be left clear for sports and societies. You certainly can join the Students' Union. During the first week of induction, it's typically on the Wednesday, and last year it was between 10 and 4. The Students' Union have a big fair, and that's a great opportunity to come along, meet the Students' Union, get involved proactively in all the different societies, sign up for whatever things interest you. There are a huge number of different ones. There's also, within CAS, lots of different student societies, for example, Women in Business, and whilst as the Accounting and Finance degree, I know quite a few students do get involved in things such as the Investment Society, which some of our investment and financial risk management students set up a few years ago. Okay. I understand as well there is actually now an accounting society which was set up this last year, so that's a brilliant society to join as well. Do we have any other questions? Okay, just going to give it a moment to see if anybody does have any other questions. What I will say, we are going to be sending everyone a link to this talk, so you are able to listen in again afterwards. And in the email we send around, we'll also make sure that you do have Danielle and the admissions contact details. Just to say, for anyone that is waiting for a decision, we will try and get a decision to you as soon as possible. And to everyone, certainly people that are studying towards assessments at the moment, we wish you all the very best with your current studies, and we hope that you will come join us in September. There is a visit day taking place at the university on Wednesday the 2nd of April. I know it's difficult for a lot of people to attend those sessions, which is why we're doing these online events, but certainly we hope you all had an interesting time. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us, and wish you all the best. Thank you, everybody.